Joining us right now is Dr. Naresh Trehan. Dr. Trehan, thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. My first question to you is, as far as the coronavirus spread is concerned, one of the major concerns that are being raised is that we perhaps in India do not have enough screening centers or areas or places, designated places where the screening can take place. Would you suggest in your wisdom that the government should open up the screening centers? For instance, invite private players in the process. Those who can pay should pay.
See, if you go by the experience of the world, there are two very stark examples you can use here. Korea jumped on very quickly on testing every suspected case so that they were screened early, they have been able to contain it, their death rate has been the lowest. On the other hand, you have Italy, which went through saying, no, we can't test, we should not test, there was a lot of delay in actually getting on to the job right away, has had the worst results. The most rapid spread and the maximum mortality. So this, if India was to learn a lesson from that, India with a much larger population than these two countries has a looming problem which may go totally out of control. So at this point, we should take every possible measure. Like I'm saying, we should be battle ready. That the phase 3 and 4 are on the doorstep. We should educate the public of what they can do, which we have been saying again and again about social distancing, washing hands and all that. There is no need to repeat that because it's been repeated so many times. And there are posters now the Health Ministry has put on its website. We can all disseminate those so that people know what the do's and don'ts are. But on the other hand, there is a large proportion of people who may have symptoms which may to doctors look like maybe coronavirus. Then we should not say till your symptoms develop into severe symptoms, only then we'll test you. I think that we have gone much beyond that stage when we first thought that it was contacts only or people who traveled from overseas. Now it's in the community. We know how rapidly it's spreading. Bombay is a very scary thing, how it's jumping on a daily basis. So now we really have to get down to brass tacks, believe that there is we are in the battle mode and we have a war to fight, and we have to do it collectively. We have to forget public, private, government, all those lines have to be blurred, and we must all jump on to say how we can get prepared for not only now, but the next steps that we expect the outbreak to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So there has been some discussion between government and private players, and government is doing what it can. But see, it's not a battle only for the government to fight. It's a battle for all of us to fight. Every Indian must be part of that battle, part of that army that is going to fight it. So if we are determined that we will protect ourselves, follow the suggestions that we are being given on a daily basis, multiple times by different doctors, different channels, government agencies, we should take it seriously. What bothers me and worries me is that people are still not taking it seriously. They say, oh, panic. The question is not a panic. Panic is when you lose your balance. This is a question of being extremely serious, because when it happens, we'll regret it. Now, if it doesn't happen, it'll be the greatest gift India got. So we can celebrate. But till that time that we know that we have been delivered from this challenge, we should be absolutely on the alert.
No, Dr.
So
Trehan,
we know what we have said about
Dr.
the
Trehan,
gatherings.
From the manner in which you are speaking, some people would call you as a person who's cautiously alarmist. You're cautious, but at the same time, you're raising a massive concern which will be considered alarmist. When you say that we have to be prepared for phase 2 and phase 3, can you explain what these phases are? What does this mean?
See, phase 1 is when you have an identifiable group of people, like when we understood that people who came from countries which were affected, they came into India, they may have had, at that stage, if they had few contacts, we could actually track those contacts, try to isolate them. So that's known as the containment phase. That is phase 1. Phase 2 is when it starts spreading into the community. So that one person who has not traveled abroad, may not have had contact, still has gotten it, and it starts spreading in a community. Phase 3 is when it starts, numerical numbers start jumping to a level where you say you are almost reaching an epidemic in our own country, and phase 3 and 4 get blurred there. So I'm saying now, if we have enough number of people infected, but the detection, because of the screening criteria are very strict and only can be done in a few laboratories, we may be underestimating the exposure that we have to this country. We are saying whether the government multiplies its testing centers or it seeks the help of reputed NABL certified laboratories to carry out the test in a very strict criteria, not random. But we should then be able to track the communities much better to see what is the real incidence and how fast it's spreading. Now, when they start getting sick, which will happen a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, and they have to be hospitalized, are we ready with the isolation wards? Now, one of the things that have been thought is being thought through is that should we get all the hospitals, whether government and private, to offer isolation beds in their hospitals. Now, if you look at again what China did, China built very quickly over 2 weeks several hospitals where all these people could be isolated. In India, one, the numbers may match that of China. Second, the fact that we should designate hospitals which become COVID-19 hospitals, whether they are in the government space or private space. But what we are realizing is there are many hospitals in the government space which have not been operationalized yet or can be emptied quickly into other hospitals and used as those centers. Now, there are not enough ventilators, there are not enough other devices available which we may need to treat very serious people, and the private providers have volunteered that they will actually contribute these equipments as and when required in whatever location they are. So, like ventilators, we've all volunteered how many ventilators we have, we should be able to spare so many, and all those things. So, like I'm saying, there should be no barrier to each other. The whole thing is, it's a national problem. You take it on the war footing, you'll feel like you don't worry about how much money is being spent as long as lives are being saved. And the fact that who pays for it will come later. And I don't think that you should worry about who's doing what, but we should be prepared for it.
No, but then would that not be a valid concern? For instance, that if someone were to worry about the bills, who is going to foot the bill? I'm sure a government will be concerned, individuals will be concerned. Do you think that factor should be at play in the mind of a government? For instance, from what you're telling me, it appears as if you're concerned about the underreporting of these cases as of now in India, which to my mind is far more alarming than containment.
No, it's, we don't know, but there is a very, very high index of suspicion that if you don't test enough people, you will not find out. I gave you the example of Korea. South Korea did a beautiful job of containing it. China, now if you look at it, 90% of the cases were in China and 10%, 15% within the rest of the world. The whole graph has reversed. The rest of the world has 90% or 85% of the cases, and China has 10 to 15%. So China has been effectively being able to control it. Now, it's a different matter that they infected the whole world. That's the tragedy. But we must learn from other people's experience and be on the alert. I don't think, I have attended some meetings with the private and the government sector. They're all very concerned. But I think that we need to jump on it a little harder than we are right now and not be complacent about it.
All right. Dr. Trehan, many thanks for joining us right here on NDTV.